Hello.
How are ya?
I'm good. I'm still alive.
Well, are you kicking?
Yes. Yes. Kicking, punching, screaming, crying, farting, all of those. We're good. Yeah,
Well,
no, just still in Missouri, just staying very busy and exhausted, but doing great.
that's good. So these podcasts, we're going to do them a little bit shorter than the long 1 hour because apparently sometimes we lose the attention of people. So this will be shorter, and we are going to go back to the basics of what happens with the military. So I think the first thing that we were going to talk about is how you are notified about being deployed and how far ahead of time.
It's usually, from my experience, a pretty good amount of time. I mean, it's not they know, you know what I mean? Conventional forces, now there are differences in these as conventional forces as far as like regular dudes to bigger units. On the patch chart, even we've talked about that before. I'm pretty sure you and I have, but that's just the global thing that, again, it's Googleable information. It's open source. It says where these big units are deploying. So that's very well known. And then I guess just to cover it real quick on the other side of that coin, the units and the guys that would be in the units that would deploy quicker type of thing, because there is that type of stuff. My first unit in the Marines Fast Company, we would go through kind of like green, yellow, and red cycles, we called it. If you were green, that means like, hey, you can't go farther than X amount of miles away. You've got to be able to be back in 2 hours. So we can, like, no kidding, leave within 24 hours. But you know about those things. Your family knows, like, we know, we're told. You know what I mean? Um, we're told when we're going to deploy, typically how long it is. Now, that happens to where deployments are longer. That does happen. Like I was stop loss back in the day, if you remember what stop loss was when it was a thing. But even when that happens, like, it's funny I that we even have to say this, but you're going to continue to get fed. You're going to continue to get housed. You're going to continue to get all of those basic things that you need, because it's like, it's almost like I'm creating an analogy right now, but if your kids' friends come over for a sleepover, right, and then or you're watching them for a few nights, and then because the other parents' kids are out of town, and they're like, "Hey, we call back Sandy. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it back tomorrow to pick up Branson and Logan. Can you watch them another 24, 48 hours, something like that?" And in that deal, you are kind of the military in a sense, to where like, cool, yes, you're staying longer than expected, but you're still going to be under my roof. You're still going to eat my food. You're still going to have my protection. I'm still going to keep my eye on you. All of those things. Like, there's never, ever going to be the case of where a soldier or military member is left anywhere in the world to fend for themselves, or to feed themselves, or to get themselves back, or to get themselves home, or to get themselves anywhere like that. That's all of those things are very silly in the world of reality. Um, did I digress from anything yet too much?
Well, you're doing notification about being deployed, and you can tell your family that you're being deployed. But you're not going to, contact a total stranger on social media and say, hey, I love you, but then I'm being deployed tomorrow.
Sure.
So
So we
how
can
are
all
you notified? Is it email, through the chain of command?
well, chain of command. I mean, you become, because even if, yeah, and I think we've talked about FRG units before. That's Family Readiness Group. The military, especially in the last, I mean, I was in for 20 years. I joined in 99, got out in like 23. But the last 20 years or so, it's getting better at the family stuff. They want you to be involved, have your family involved as much as possible. They want because they want them to know. So yeah, you're going to find out from your chain of command as soon as they know, and they're going to want you to tell your family. Go home and tell your family what's going on. Don't be posting when it's. We get into operational security now, which is called OPSEC, which most people have kind of heard of, even just in a movie, anything like that. It's nothing fancy. It literally stands for operational security. And then you also have PERSEC, which is personal security. So again, it comes back to the term of loose lips sink ships. Pretty sure we all know that one from whatever decade we're from, but that's
Right.
absolutely true. Don't go running your mouth about when we're leaving, how many people are going, how long we're going to be gone, how we're getting there, where we're stopping. People don't need to know those things, and that puts us at risk. So even while I was still in, way back in the Marines, we'd already started social media training or media training. It started as
Right.
media training and then went to social media training. So it's like, look, this is what's happening, but don't tell people this. They don't need to know. So yeah, you're
Right.
absolutely told. They want to tell you as much as possible because there are so many unknowns in the military that when you have a good command, especially, they want to tell you as much as what's going on or as much as they know. So you're not, you're going, this is another thing we've talked about a little bit, but if you just find out you're deploying, you're going to be busy AF. Most of us know what the AF means. That's crap, right? You're not going to have time with all the other stuff because now you're training even more. You're working more than 40 hours a
Right.
week. You're going to be working your ass off. Then you're trying to get in the last family time with the wife and the kids and doing this and doing that. You don't have time to reach out to new people that you don't know or somebody that you just met. Like, that's not in your realm of reality. Like, I know that Ruth and I deep dive kind of generals before, and I think you and I have talked about them, but it's like once you reach that rank, it's like you were so busy, you don't have time to be catcalling your chicks on social media. And it's the same when you're getting ready to deploy. You don't have time for foolishness like that to be looking for love on the internet from people that you don't know and things like that. So it's yeah.
Okay, I did see someone mention that they had to pay for a lost gun. So we'll just touch on that briefly.
Sure. Well, I want to see that comment so I can know what I'm addressing. Let's see. You certainly don't pay anything to us. No. No, in Bitcoin. No, no. Definitely not leftover trees. One needed money to pay for lot. At least they say issued weapon there, so you've heard us before. Thank you. $2,800. Okay, so yeah, no. If they ever say gun, anything like that, that's we don't call it guns, bullets. So that's already a big red flag. It just wouldn't be called that. But yeah, it's very bad if you lose your issued weapon of any kind or any um, sensitive items, serialized items, anything like that. If you lose that, that's a huge deal. And then it's kind of one of those where you don't want anybody to know except the people that have to, because you should feel like an idiot. You know what I mean? It's the hot seat. You're not in a good place if you lose your weapon or your nods or something like that, because now the show stops until that's found. Like, no matter where you're at. I've done it in training sites. We always just call it, all right, it's time for hands across Missouri. Wherever you're at, get online. Nope, Sandy lost her nod, so nobody's going anywhere. Or you're gone. You know what I mean? Or your pistol or your M4. It just gets worse if it's an actual weapon or M4 or saw, or you know what I mean? So that's bases get shut down. When I was in HK in Afghanistan, our base basically got shut down and they were coming through looking. That's such a big deal that no, you're not just going to be able to pay for it and move on, or get your sugar mama to pay for your weapon that you lost and move on. That's such a huge deal. It's an administrative deal. You're going to be getting in trouble. It's one of those things you don't want people to know in general. But total farce if you're paying it back. Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about when you're getting deployed, how much busy you are. And I am actually listening to a book from one of our military guys. And he was talking about when he found out he was going to be deployed, they trained harder so that it was training for that specific area they were going to. Which I think in turn he was trained as a medic as well. So he was training, for, well, Afghanistan, and he was training as a medic. So he was just busy, 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 busy. So by listening to him, I know that you all have a job to do when you're ready to get deployed, and you do not have time to, sit there and text some woman and I love you, babe, and we're getting ready to be deployed, and I mean just and also, you don't have time to text and say, well, I'm going to Syria, I'm going to Yemen, I'm going to Afghanistan, because you talked about that loose lips, loose ships. So or sink ships. um so you're not going to tell some stranger that you are going to a specific area. That is a definite security no-no.
Yeah, that's a breach of operational security. That's a huge OPSEC no-no. And plus, too, like 18 to 22-year-olds, we'll all agree. I don't mean this harshly, but we're all dumb as shit when we're 18 to 22, basically, right?
Well, that's
For
what
the
it's saying in the book I'm
for
listening to.
the for the most part, okay. If you're an exception, I'm not talking to you, but most of us were. I can't point at myself enough. I was so. But my point of that is like the younger dumb soldiers, young dumb Marines, they have the time. They're the ones chasing the girls and this and that, but they're trying to do it like in the flesh type stuff. Not they don't care about this type of stuff. As you get older, gain rank, as we talked about with the general. The general's too busy. He's a politician basically at that point. But it's the
Right.
same for us enlisted peasants as we move up. You're not only just in charge of myself anymore. It's not just making sure Dustin does what Dustin has to do. Well, now Dustin has to make sure that Sandy and Ruth and and everybody else is doing their stuff. And then the more you move up with rank, the more responsibility you get, i.e., the more work you have to do on any case, whether it's even just the training stuff, but then when people screw up, you have to fix that. And like you never stop, really. It's a no kidding 24-hour job type of thingy. Even when I was still with my wife, I'd get calls all the time, or at 2 a.m, something like this. I'd go and take it. What's going on? Is everybody alive? Basically, is everybody safe and okay? Is it yes? They're just, so and so's a dummy or whatever happened. You have so much crap to do all the time, and most of these guys are already dealing with one family or an ex and their kids and that type of stuff. You're
Right.
already dealing with so many people. Most of these military guys, they're not looking for any more of that to deal with. I don't mean for that to sound in a bad way, but that's kind of
It's
what it
just too
is.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just too
There's
much. Um, okay, so we also talked about, we're just kind of looking at time. We talked about what is the difference between being deployed and stationed.
very good question. So, I was never stationed overseas, but I deployed overseas. So, being stationed somewhere, that means like if you're married or whatever, you'll pick up and go with your family. That's a permanent change of station. That means you're going to be there typically at least for 2 to 3 years. There's some exceptions, sure, like Korea. That's a hardship deployment where I think if you go by yourself as a grown service member, you're only going to be there 12 to 24 months, something like that. But an average, being stationed there means like, hey, Sandy, I got deployed. We're getting stationed in Italy, so we're going to move over there for 2 years. Little Timmy will go to school over there on the base. We'll live there for 2 years while I'm stationed there, just like I would be stationed at um, Fort Bragg when I was there, or stationed at Fort Benning. When you're stationed somewhere, that's your place of duty. You can be stationed overseas. It's just somewhere different, right? When you're stationed there, that means that you stay there, you live there. That's where you are permanently based for that time frame
You're
until you.
stationary.
Yes, you're stationary, but you can still. I mean, you can still deploy. You can still go TDY. That's another phrase. But yes, that is where you come back to. That is where you're based. That's where you're stationed. That's where you live. But you can deploy for a little bit here because, like guys that are stationed in Italy, we have lots of stuff in Italy, Germany. Those guys they're stationed in Italy, but they'll deploy from there to Iraq or Afghanistan, wherever they're going, and then they go back to Italy, Germany, wherever they're at, and because that's where they're stationed. So deployed, you go to and come back. That's basically the gist of it. Now, I'd be interested to see how the scammers use the differences, or even if they know the differences or whatnot.
I don't know if they know the differences. Most of the time they use deployed, but I had also noticed some of our military men that had been used that they had been stationed in various areas. Um, so I kind of just wanted to make that point, and at that point, that is where you're doing a longer period of time. You may be 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
Deployment is, maybe 9 to 12 months, maybe 18. But it is not permanent. You're not in a stationary position. You are deployed to a certain specific area for a certain reason, and once your deployment is up, your whole unit is flown home.
Yes, your whole unit. And that kind of comes back to other stuff that they will use on deployment. And like I've already touched on this time, when you deploy, there's essentially like the highest enlisted person, whoever's in charge, and then the highest, I meant to say officer enlisted. Like there's somebody in charge of you when you're deployed, or there's somebody accountable for every individual that's deployed. So, like, the force is not just going to come back and then somebody, like they said in the comments, because that is a great one, like that. Oh man, I got left up here in a tree. My unit left. They,
That's Mel, because that's that story we laugh at all
yeah,
the
I know. I remember
time.
that one. Yeah, like how do you? Yeah, but no, like anytime you like you are accountable on somebody's roster, they have to make sure they get your dumbass back to the stage too. You know what I mean? Like you're and all of these guys, they are nothing. There's always people higher ranked than you. We're really. This is not to make us sound bad, but I mean we are dispensable. The time marches on. You know, time doesn't stop for anybody. Type of thingy. Like you have you can't get left behind. If you do, that's an international incident. And that's going to be big time news. And that's people losing their jobs. And that's all types of that stuff.
Right. And, I noticed, like I said, in the book I'm listening to, he was stating as a medic, he was sent out in the field with 12 people. And of course, Afghanistan was a war zone at that period of time. So they would go to the village and come back, but they were always looking out for each other. If 12 went out, they made sure 12 came back, unless that 12th person, or the 10th, 11th, and 12th might not be still alive, but they still make sure they come back and are counted.
Yeah, yeah. You may have seen in if you watch war movies, anything like that. Yeah, that's a huge thing is accountability of personnel and your stuff. Again, like we talk anything with sensitive information. When you're coming back in, like if you go out as 12 like that, that's about like a squad, something like that, a big team maybe.
Right.
So whoever's in charge of that squad, they're gonna as you get back to base, as you're returning to base and going in the door, like this is it right here. If I'm in charge of all of these people, then I'm going to be right there by the door counting y'all as you go in. All right, 1, 2, we got everybody. Cool. Hey, good job out there. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, cool. We're up. That means we have all of our people. And now the team leaders say, now get hands on all sensitive information. Now we need 100% on all the weapons, all the nods, all the radios, all of that stuff before we proceed. Because it's like now if one of those things is missing or somebody lost their gun, then guess
Yeah.
what? The show stops. And if it did happen, it's like, first off, why are you just not telling me, you freaking idiot? But that call goes up immediately. Then QRF, quick reaction force or whatever, stuff stops. Units are going to come down. We're going to go back out. We're going to find that. That's what I mean as far as that type of stuff's a big deal. So accountability of personnel and weapons and not any serialized stuff, any sensitive things like that. You're not just moving on without it, especially people. So yeah, whenever you deploy, it's called redeploying back to the States or to Italy or, wherever you're going. But yes, whoever's in charge, they have to make sure all that stuff's back where it's like, how'd you lose a private over there? How'd you leave a private? Whatever. That's just,
Yeah. So if they come, with a unit, and I don't know the basics of how many are in a unit, but I do know those planes are huge that fly you back and forth from the States. I mean, some of the ones I've seen. Um, so they fit a bunch of guys. You're going to make sure every single guy is accounted for before that plane leaves to come back to the States. So no, again, nobody's going to be left behind. Nobody's going to be left up a tree. Nobody's going to be left hiding from the Taliban's, as the scammers put it. Nobody's going to be left in Yemen or wherever else. Nobody's left behind. And I've always heard this phrase, no man left behind. So, those are just a couple of topics we wanted to touch on, and those are basics. And, if a scammer starts telling you anything different than what Dustin and I have discussed, come and talk to us.
also on that, It does not move fast. There are lots of almost like checkpoints you have to get through when you're coming back, especially in the army because it's so much bigger. So now you've got just thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of pounds of gear and all of this stuff. So even leaving Afghanistan, Iraq, either one of those, you do it in phases, and it takes like 2-3 weeks to get home just because you're here for so long and you're waiting for that flight to come. And it's like, okay, cool, now we're here. And guess what we're going to do at every one of those? We're going to check sensitive items. We're going to make sure that everybody's still here. We're going to do all of those things, but nothing moves fast. And it's real hard to get left behind with something like that. And even in Iraq, in 2011, I was one of the last. Our unit closed down one of the huge FOBs there, FOBs Forward Operating Base, of like VB Victory Base Camp or Striker. One of them that was very huge. We were one of the last units there, and so when we left, it was like a 33 vehicle convoy of like big military vehicles drive. We drove from there, I think, to Kuwait or something like that. But it was a big journey. It looked like a ghost town when we left. But it would be like virtually impossible for somebody to get left behind there. You know what I mean? It's just that's crazy to me. And that's not to say that it never has in the world happened, but when it does, it gets fixed very quickly. The people involved aren't certainly going to say anything outside of that because you're going to look so stupid if you have to talk about that. Whether it was your guy that got left behind or you that, you know what I mean? Like it gets fixed so quick that nobody's going to be left there when their unit's already in the States. Does that make
Right,
sense?
right,
So again, it's one of those things like losing your gun. You're not going to tell somebody, especially a woman that you're trying to spit game at, or you know what I mean?
right. Somebody you're trying to impress.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like
So,
asking for money.
yeah, I mean, you don't need money because you are fed, you are housed, you have, medical services. Same thing that you have here in the States. And that's whether you're deployed or stationed, either way. Um,
Deployment,
you
you're making a lot more money.
that is a good difference to mention. Um, but also where you come and go as a unit, you don't have to pay for the flights, not at all. And of course, we talked about this one time and we'll touch on it real quick. Your bank accounts don't get frozen. You can use your ATM card just like we can. So there's no really difference other than maybe you have to use a different type of money, depending on where you're at.
Yeah. Um, yes. You make way more money deployed. You get a lot more what's called entitlements because you get, a lot. First off, it's tax free. I
Ah,
mean, that's a huge one right there. Not having to pay taxes on it, that's a lot of money by itself. But then you get combat pay, hazard pay. If you're married, you get separation pay, being separated more than 30 days. So you make so much more money. Uh,
really?
okay, yeah, I can come back to that in a second. It doesn't, yeah. So that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant, even if they said that. So whoop-de-doo. Um, yeah, your account's never going to get frozen. And again, Ruth and I have talked about this so much because that was part of my job as either as a team leader, squad leader, something like that. You were in charge of all the dudes under you. And again, we go back to that 18 to 22-year-old, little demographic there. Because though I wasn't good with money, I spent my money as soon as I got it, right? It's kind of the joke is you eat good because you get paid every 2 weeks. Every other week you get paid. So it's like you'll be eating really good and balling for a week, and then you're broke the second week and eating at the chow hall. You know what I mean? Until you get money again. But that's just because you're young and dumb and spending all your money. It's never going to get frozen. And there are so many things in the military again because if you belong to me and I'm your squad leader and you're having financial issues, it's my responsibility to help you get those fixed. You know what I mean? Like that's part of my job too, not just the shooting and the run, all that stuff. There's military programs for it. You have so many resources that you're never going to get frozen out. Now, something that can happen, we've talked about, you can get what's called a no pay due. But if that's what was happening, they would tell you. And plus, you're still going to get taken care of if you get a no pay due. If you owe the Army money, they're going to take it back. You can owe the Army money and they will take it, but they cannot freeze your checking accounts because those are yours. But even if you get a no pay due, that just means you owe the Army money and they took it. It comes back to that squad leader, team leader, whoever's in charge. Guess what? Okay, then we'll make sure you're getting to the chow hall so you can eat, or we'll have some box of MREs, whatever. You tell me what you need until you get more money. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Right. So you have your so much small level leadership that it's literally their jobs to take care of all these young dumb idiots, and I say that lovingly.
Well, one mentioned the food, and they got food poisoning and got sick. Now, you can go to McDonald's and get food poisoning. You know, you can go to your local restaurant. You're not going to ask some woman for extra money to replace a hamburger. You know, so food poisoning, if something happens over there, of course, they've got the medical that can take care of you. But they have chefs. They have cooks. My grandfather was a cook when he was in the Army, which, of course, he was in World War II. And, you know, he told us some of the stories about what they did as a cook. So I know for a fact they have cooks, they have food, they have a variety of food. And if you have a special diet, that is provided for as well. So they don't need money for any type of food whatsoever if anybody is deployed.
Yes. And the debit card thing, and then they'll say that they lost their debit card. So I think we're still deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan and things like that. I know they've said we're not or whatever, but I'm pretty sure we still are. Kuwait, that's still a thing for sure. Kuwait's like a vacation destination these days. It always has been for a long time. But they're like, you don't use your debit card. I think you kind of alluded to it, Sandy. I don't know if we're not supposed to say the name of it or anything, but basically, yeah, you don't use your debit card when you deploy as you would just like you're going to a gas station. You have your money sent through. It's very simple, and I hate technology type stuff, but you've got a certain card, Eagle Cash card is what it's called. So
okay. You put that.
That's essentially your debit card and those types of things because everything's kind of like unified to where you can use that Eagle Cash on anything basically while you're deployed in the shopettes. And from Kuwait to Afghanistan, any military type of stuff, I still have mine just as a token of whatever. But yeah, you shift your money from your regular account. You put however much money on your Eagle Cash card, and then you use that Eagle Cash card until you need to put more money on it. You're not using your debit card when you're deployed, unless you're using it online to buy stuff on Amazon and you pay your bills and do all that electrical stuff that we can do these days that we couldn't back when I first started.
Yeah.
So you can still use your debit card in that fashion. But when you're there using it, if they say that they want to go buy food from they shouldn't need to anyway. It's like you said, there are cooks and they're getting served food, but then even if they say that, like, if they hear me talking about this, they're like, oh, no, it's my debit card for my house payment, or whatever, my kid's medicine, they'll probably play something like that.
Right.
Then it says on here already, the very bottom one, comment on here, there's always someone to sort this out for you. That is absolutely true. I cannot stress to you how true that is. And just as true as the next one, they never need a woman to send anything to them. It's not true. It's not feasible. It's not reality. Again, one of my favorite things to say to Ruth when we talk about it is, if I'm trying to talk to a woman that I'm interested in, why as a man would I want you to know I don't have any money? To me, I grew up my whole life wanting to be a good man, or what I thought a good man was supposed to be. And to me, that's at least being financially stable. So why would I want you to know now that, hey, gorgeous, yes, I love you so much, but would you please send me money? If I had to say that to somebody, that is so
embarrassing.
Embarrassing is well, there's a lot of words, but that's one of them for sure. You know what I mean?
I
It's
mean,
beta. It's embarrassing. It's what do you what?
right. I mean, even if like a female was a breadwinner in a family, a female's not going to ask for money.
Right.
Um, and we do have female soldiers. They're not going to ask for money, just like the men are not going to ask for money. No one needs to ask any stranger for money. Period. Full stop.
Full stop. Period. And
So
so on that, if are we want to wind up shorter this time?
yeah.
We on last call. Okay. So this is one of my favorites. Again, I've said a bunch, but on the note that we're talking about, if
Oh, there's Ruth.
hey,
She's Maisie.
okay, she's the one that nailed it. Well, oh, all right, look at you, you old sandbagger. Uh, but if so, no military person is ever going to need anything from you except maybe a USO care package. And if they do, you know what I mean, send them new socks and some lotion, whatever. You send them care package stuff. Never money. Uh, but if you found yourself just in a place in life where maybe you don't have any family left around, you're retired from work, you don't have the things that you used to, and you have all this attention, emotion, affection, energy to give. um, Find a place to go and give that. Don't don't wait for somebody to reach out to you and think, oh, this is where, oh, I'm so happy now. I get to pour all this energy and emotion and affection, all that stuff, and money into this. Because those are our scammers. If you have that stuff and you feel that way at all, look in your own neighborhood first. I guarantee you, whatever you're into, that could use some volunteer work. If you're into animals, hit up an animal shelter. If you like to read, to whatever, go to the freaking library. If you want to spend time with older, do whatever. Find something that you love. If you don't know what you love, cool. Well, it's never too late to find out. If you've never tried painting, take a community painting class. I know a lot of community centers. I've done so many different like community things that I can try, like the painting and the hot yoga and the this and the that. Try those. Get around real people. You might find real love, which is crazy. That's not necessarily what you're doing it for, but you're able to give all of that stuff that you have to real people that need it. That's right there in your own community, rather than some little shit that's overseas wearing a purse, the fake Louis V, all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Give it to the people that can use it, and that's just yeah.
I have to agree with that. Give it to your local area instead of trying to send it to some little chit overseas that dresses like a clown and drives a better car than I do.
Yeah. Yes. And do not try to engage with them once you find out. Do not try to be a hero. Do not try to get more information from them. Do
Right.
not do any of that type of stuff. Sandy said it well. Full stop block. That's just block. Stop communication. Period. That's your best. That's your muscle right there. Is just block them. That's your power.
Yeah. Full stop.
Yeah.
So at this time, we will go ahead and cut off and we'll pick a topic for next time. Dustin, you can do one by yourself, pre-recorded or do it live and let us know. And we just want to continue with these podcasts, make them a little bit shorter to keep the attention. So thank you, Dustin, so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for reaching out again. Sorry, I'm finally catching up with my people from Alabama and everything here, and it's like I'm sorry, I've either just been busy or exhausted. So thanks for
All
reaching
right.
out and getting me back on here again. So yeah, we'll do it again soon.
All right. Thanks, Dustin.
You're welcome. Thanks everybody. See ya. Ruth.